Welcome, Olivier Lefevre. Thank you so much for coming in to talk to us today. You're the director of the Randstad Talent Advisory, I believe. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, with pleasure. It's a great pleasure for me to be here. My role is to help companies, to challenge companies when it comes to talent issues in the most broad way that you can imagine.
I was going to say, where do you start? There's a lot of issues.
Yeah, there are a lot of issues. So it can be employer branding, it can be the talent lifecycle, it can be the employee experience, it can be strategic workforce management, it can be the processes, it can be the technology. If there is any questions, we come in to challenge, to create a plan. And then, of course, that's the beauty of Randstad. We have a lot of expertise and a lot of colleagues who can implement it afterwards. So I'm a little bit the challenger before we do and start the work.
That's a good fit with the Truth Works. We've just been talking about the fact that we like to be direct, get to the heart of the problems, and we're a little bit of a challenger ourselves. So it's great to have a fellow challenger.
Absolutely.
Well, lovely to have you in today. And part of the reason I wanted to have you in was because every year, and you said for 25 years, I believe as well, Randstad has brought out an employer brand report.
Yes.
Subject very close to my heart as an employer brander for about 10 years now as well, coming from a marketing background and getting into the employer brand side, which has its own nuance and its own complexities. But I got a hold of this report because I did a talk for your company a few weeks back, really dived into the findings, mainly for the UK. But I understand there's also a report for various different countries. You've also got a global version of the report. I'd love to know more about what the report contains, why people should care, and then we'll get into some of the highlights from it.
With pleasure. Thanks that you think it's a good report, strong report. I believe so. I also believe that. It was started 25 years ago in Belgium.
Okay.
There was Jan Denis, who is a labor market specialist expert, who saw that in a difficult market, it is important to present yourself in a more authentic and correct way. So, and it was something that was created. It was new. If you see employer branding, the terminology, the late 90s, it started to get and to get rolling. So we said we have to do something with it. So we started in Belgium. Nowadays, I think 34 countries worldwide that we have a report.
Wow.
And so there is also a global report because of all the findings in each country. It's nice to see and to make the comparisons and to see what are the differences, but what is the same. It's,
and what's the research process for it? So are you going out to employers or?
No, we go and we ask approximately, I think last year it was 170,000 people in the streets.
Great.
That we ask
I think we call them passive candidates.
Passive, active.
Passive, active candidates that don't know they're passive or active candidates
absolutely.
yet. Yeah.
So we go and we ask and we try to represent the demography as best as possible.
Great.
Meaning that we're going to ask 18 to 20 to 64 in age, different levels in education, men, women, regions. It's very important for us.
Great.
So that we have a representation that is correct. 170,000, it's the largest one. If you want to have a study on employer branding, it's the largest one. There is no comparison. The study is important because we're going to ask on the big companies. So there's a selection, for instance, for Belgium, it's all companies with more than 1,000 employees that they can have an opinion on. But the first question is also a very interesting one because we're going to measure and we're going to ask them what's important for you guys. If you look at the labor market, what would be the building blocks or what would be the criteria to choose a company to work for? And so they can choose within the 16 blocks. It's scientifically created, so that's okay. We're going to see, okay, what are those building blocks that are important for you when you choose an employer? And then you get a ranking.
And presumably you could compare year on year as well, look at different trends and see what's changing.
Yeah, for Belgium, for instance, we have 25 years of data. It's very interesting because you can see how it evolves through the years and how it's changing. Because in the beginning, you saw when the economy went up, you got other criteria went up when it becomes difficult there. But nowadays it flattens out.
Yeah,
we see the top five of building blocks of criteria stay the same, very close to each other. the position differs year on year, but it's very close these years.
And what were those top building blocks?
The top building blocks, but now I'm talking for Belgium, but then the top 5 are similar for the most countries. The position can change, but you have salary, salary and benefits, work-life balance, work atmosphere, work security, and now I have to look at work security, work-life balance, work atmosphere, and then it depends job content or other things but the top 4, top 5 is most of the time the same.
Had you seen security shift given what we're seeing around the economy and given what we're seeing? People are more anxious, they're looking for more guarantees.
Yeah, but it went down. We saw that due to the what I said earlier on, the war for talent is over, talent has won. You see that there is a certain awareness that there is a lot of job opportunities.
Yeah.
So you saw that job security was not the priority because they saw, well, when I want to change, I can change. I will find something else. So job security now in the insecurity on the world, you see that it's going back everywhere in the top 3.
Yeah.
So it's back.
Yeah.
But is it a big difference? We see that in percentage and in weight, it's shifted 2% or whatever. But it's back. Yeah.
So other things still matter to people.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And we saw a distinction, I think, looking at the UK report, we saw that work-life balance came up really high, but that wasn't necessarily the case for other markets. I found that quite interesting.
No, you see there are differences. There are 2 main pillars that come back in and on top for the most countries. The number 1 that comes back for the most countries is salary and benefits.
Yeah.
The second one who comes up at first another big part is work-life balance. And then you have for very specific countries what you will say management or whatever, because you have a very in Japan it will be totally different.
Yeah.
Because culture does matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
So then you see sometimes a difference. For the Netherlands, work atmosphere is always 1, 2, or 3, always. So because you have a certain standard of salary and benefits. When it's okay, the discussion is less on expectation because I can ask it. Then other priorities will go on top.
Talking about security, and as you said, before we started recording, we were talking about, is the war for talent over? Who's won it?
Yeah.
Obviously, employers thinking they've got a good situation at the moment and that maybe they can be less hot on some of those key drivers because they've maybe got more talent flooding the marketplace, more talent to choose from, and their current talent is staying put. Do you think that's a naive view? Do you think it's right for employers to be thinking that way?
It's a short-term way of thinking. Is it a naive way? Yes, there is a bit more people on the labor market, more talent on the labor market for the moment. But it's not that we are back on the big numbers. And it's temporary because it's linked to the world situation politically and economically, and it will change again because there is a reality. And there is a second reality, that is the scarcity on the labor market. The demographic downfall is a reality, and it will go 2050, 2070, depends on what country that you're looking for. Because if you look at the economically strong countries and you look at the labor market talents available, it's going down everywhere. Until recently, there were 2 big countries where it wasn't the case, and it was India, and it stays the case, and it was the US. But even in the US now, we see that it's declining. So this reality is something in a market, because we are stock market driven, meaning growth is the only way forward. So doing more with less people, the reality will stay. Even if you have now more people on the labor market, the reality is that with those people, you will have to do more.
Yeah.
But the number of people that are available are not growing because there are a lot of people who are leaving the labor market.
Yeah.
The big discussions on pension and so on in a lot of countries, the Netherlands, Belgium, the UK, everywhere there's the discussion, how long do you want to need to work? This has to do with the numbers on the labor market because otherwise you will not get there.
Yeah. And at the other end of the spectrum, we're saying we don't need to hire junior talent because we can have AI do it, but then we're missing the opportunity to build a pipeline for the future.
Yeah, and that's also a very interesting one, because you see a lot of reports now. The Big Four, Deloitte, EY, PwC are telling, okay, we don't, and you see the numbers, we are not getting in a lot of young starters because we have AI. It's all,
who are your managers of the leader and leaders of the future then, right?
Yeah, and it's a very dangerous one, because that's when they are getting their expertise.
Yeah.
So you're taking something away from them. But at the other end, that's a new reality. Is it that a big issue? But they need to reinvent the career part of talent.
Exactly.
And you need to integrate AI and technology within that career part and within the growth of people.
Yeah.
Today, sadly enough, there is a very interesting MIT report who said that 95% of all AI projects within companies are failing.
That doesn't surprise me, actually, I have to say, because who's implementing that change? I mean, change projects, I think the famous stat is sort of 75% of change projects fail as well. Mm-hmm. So now you add technology as a core component and technology resistant employees. And it's not surprising to me that it's difficult to implement.
It's difficult to implement. And also, where do you start? Companies and decision makers are saying, okay, we need to implement technology. So we go for the technology, and the IT or the CIO becomes the leader of the pack to implement a lot of things, but they forget that it's the people who are going to do that.
Yeah.
And they forget to, and maybe it's interesting, it would be a very nice tandem to work together, is the CHRO and the CIO, because the people have to do the change and the technology have to support the people.
Yeah.
But today, you do the change, and the people need to go into the change and learn it.
Yeah.
And the distance become even further. So maybe listen to go to your strategy and to find your solutions. What do we need to do with the people that we have and the talents that we have today to make it happen? No, what we do is we create something, and then people have to follow. So the gap becomes even greater, and you see it fails.
Yeah. Upskilling was a huge piece in your employer brand report as well. That need for it, but also that desire from it. But I think, to your point, it can't just be a technology exercise or a change exercise. It also has to be a human exercise, because change is an emotional process, right? Yeah. We feel vulnerable, we feel exposed for what we don't know, we feel scared or intimidated. And I think we forget the emotional side of implementing that change as well.
Absolutely. And it's a very important one. So the first reason is, why do we do it? And I think you have a strategy as a company, you have a vision and a mission as a company, so you have to implement it, and you need the people to do that. And then you see, okay, we don't have the right people and so on, so we're going to create technology, and we don't know where we are going today. Why? Another study, and a lot of numbers and studies, who says 65% of the jobs for tomorrow don't exist yet. So meaning that we don't know where we're going for. Yeah. So there are some basic skills that are important. So but we make people afraid. Will AI help us, or will it kill us? It's a very difficult. Are you a believer or not? It's important. But as a company, if you don't believe it, and it will say that the culture, the sentiment within your people will be the same. So make sure that they're open to the change, and the change, they will adapt the change if it helps them.
Absolutely.
And there's
what's in it for me is the big thing, right?
What's in it for me? It's the same. What's in it for the company? What's in it for the people? And then you have to match it together. And that's why the role of HR, and there's also something, it's a term that I don't really like.
HR?
HR, no, because it's human resources. And resources is cost-driven.
Yeah.
And if you want to make the difference in the future, you need to invest. So for me, it's human capital. In French, it's beautiful. C'est la richesse humaine.
Oh,
it's the richness
human richness.
Yeah. So I really like that, because you have to invest in your people. But today we see the talent
as an extractive, something you extract value from.
It's a cost. No, it's an investment. If you invest in your people, you invest in your company. So if they're engaged, if they are motivated, then your productivity goes up. So If you look at that as a cost, it doesn't work. If you look at it as an investment, it works. It doesn't mean that you have to do and throw money away, but you have to be very smart about it.
So speaking of investment, we were talking again before we were rolling that maybe companies are devaluing employer branding, maybe relegating it to the idea that it's only talent marketing or external recruitment marketing. And therefore, okay, well, I'm getting the bums on seats that I need, or I'm letting people go anyway. So it's not something I need to invest in.
Sadly enough, it's true. We see that we did but that's a specific report for in Belgium. We did a report and we asked the priorities of the leadership. And we saw that employer branding is going down in priority. Why? Because we have the people, but we see that more people are in our pipeline to apply. That's my biggest problem when we talk about employer branding, as we talked before, is that the most companies and the most stakeholders within the companies don't understand the term employer branding.
Yeah,
They're still in recruitment marketing modus. It is not recruitment marketing. It's only a small part of employer branding.
Yeah.
It's a reality. Employer branding goes much deeper. It's your DNA. It's who you are as a company. Recruitment marketing is the way that you sell it at the outside to make sure, and it has to be authentic and it has to be clear. But it's only a small part. But we always put it on the marketing side.
Yeah.
And we don't see that it's a combined effort from, in reality, everybody within the company needs to be involved with employer branding, and it needs to be a strategic topic on the board table. If it's not part, then for me, it means you don't take your people serious. You don't take your talent serious. Again, employer branding as a term, maybe I'm a difficult guy, but it's too much branding.
Yes.
For me, it's an employer promise. It's who you are as an employer. What's your promise? What I'm going to give you and what I'm going to ask.
It's a value exchange.
It's a value exchange.
And a high value exchange, right? 5 days a week, if you're lucky and you're not running over and working evenings and weekends, of your time. It affects your family life. It affects your health, your well-being, your financial success. You're not buying shoes.
No.
You are effectively promising to work for someone. What am I giving my skills and value to in return for what? Not just money, because it has to be more than that.
Absolutely. And I think that the promise is give and take.
Yeah.
What I will ask, and that's the difficulty of the whole employer branding or the promise, is that it's always different for each company and even with each talent family within the company. I'm trying to explain myself. It's Maslow. It's very simple. I'm going to ask you to do things, and the basics the hygienics needs to be correct. My salary, my benefits, my work circumstances need to be top notch. It's the basics. And afterwards, on an intellectual level, I need to be challenged and so on and so on.
Stimulated. Yeah.
And then that's emotionally, I need to be valued. Today, the fact that we are in a new reality, it's not the same as in the 80s or the 90s or in the beginning of the zeros. A lot of people didn't have work and so on. And there were a lot of people looking for work. So they were content with the basics.
The basic
Nowadays,
needs,
it's not that reality. You have to find the balance on all three.
Yeah.
And that's an important one. And it's different. So if you make a promise, you have to make sure that it's included in all the elements.
Yeah.
Too much companies try to do the same thing. And you need to do, first of all, you need to know who you are. There is no right or wrong. I have no problems with companies who say, I'm very high in a hierarchy, and there is a lot of work to do, but then I will compensate.
Yes. What's the trade-off?
Your work-life balance, my work-life balance, okay, there is no work-life balance, but you will gain a lot of money.
Yeah.
And
you can progress quickly here. And we work, lockstep. It's super supportive environment that makes up for the fact that you are asked to push.
So I take, I give, but it has to be in balance. If it's not in balance, it's a problem.
And be truthful, right? Because otherwise, what are you selling? A false promise. Yeah. And then you have a rotating door of talent who go, hang on a minute, this isn't what I signed up for. And actually you get the wrong talent through the door. Talent who are not going to thrive in that very specific environment that you've created intentionally.
Yeah. And so what you say and what you do has to be the same. And it's very dangerous because as we were saying that it's too much recruitment marketing today. If you put something out there as a promise, as your employer brand, how it will be perceived? Will it be perceived correctly then? Will it be recognized in the same way? And will it be lived internally? If it's, you put something outside and they say, oh, well, this is not what the reality is. So they are getting demotivated because those people get other things than I. So it's not correct. So you have to be authentic. Otherwise, there will never be an ambassador. They will not be engaged or motivated. So it's very important that in the reality, when you start with an employer brand or your promise, you check it inside and then you go outside. That's also very important. But it has to be in balance. If it's not balanced, don't start. And don't promise things that you cannot promise.
Funnily enough, we're releasing a white paper on something really similar. So Ree and I just had this discussion before recording with you, and it's really music to our ears. The thing that's not music to my ears or just sort of depresses me a bit, but I totally get it, is in your report, as in several reports I've read recently, there's a lot around the motivation levels of employees. You know, for example, the sort of 67% in the UK report that I read of British workers feeling demotivated. I'm wondering if that's a trend across the different countries. And what do you think's driving that? It's
a trend. And it has all to do with expectation management.
Okay, tell me more.
If you put the EVP, the employer value proposition, at the heart of your company, because it has an impact of all elements on the work itself, on the onboarding and so on, that means that people have expectations based on what is promised. If it's not managed well, you get demotivated. As we were talking about, it's linked to the strategy, the mission, and the vision. The link is gone, it's not clear, they're not implicated, it's not meaningful, it's not right, they get demotivated. So it's all about expectation management. It's if the ambition of the company is not in sync with the ambition of the person, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
So needs to be done. So it has to be balanced. The balance, and who is the best guide, and this is something that for me is very important, and for me one of the key elements for the future, and it's something that we lost because is the revival of the middle management.
Yes, tell me more. Music, also music to my ears. We work a lot with middle managers, and they are getting squeezed from every angle, and then not the support or the resources they need.
They don't get the resources because they just have to follow orders. For me, the revival of the middle management, they are the guide or the compass between what the company wants towards the talents and what the talents want towards the company. So what we see is that they don't get the tools first. But they're also not selected on their leadership skills, but the most time they are selected on their expertise.
Yes. Great individual contributors do not always make great managers.
And this is sometimes a problem. In a lot of those companies, we see that's the issue, that they don't get the energy of the people management. And people management is not the priority in a lot of the times in middle management. What is it? You need the reports, you have the figures, you have to have the sales and so on. So you get your KPIs that are very business-wise.
Yeah.
But we forget the people KPIs, and it is the people KPIs who are the most important one, because if we want, again, motivated, engaged people who will do the delivery. So, and they're not trained, they're not tooled to do that.
Yeah.
So for me, if you see the demotivation, is that because they don't see the link from what my work contributes to the company and what my work makes the difference. And there is the anxiety of everything that is happening. They are not helping me. They are pushing me to new technology. So the link, the balance is gone. And who can get the balance back is the middle management, but they are not always...
And they're burnt out as well, right?
So that's a big problem. So the demotivation I can understand because there's an anxiety. And the link and the clarity and about... what the meaningfulness of them work is gone more and more. And that's for me a danger for the future, but a big opportunity for the HR community.
I like that you framed it as an opportunity and I agree. We're doing a lot of work on leadership development and support at the moment. And it really is where the opportunity for real change and transformation comes from, if you can build those skills, but also support them to do it. I want to talk a bit about inclusion. So DEI, the term that also, like employer branding, has fallen out of favor with a lot of leaders. Obviously, we've seen a lot of the politics around that, but I am curious. It comes up in the report, and I think the UK stats around this, you could read two ways. You could sort of talk about 2/3 of people feel included, or you could say 30% of people feel not included. And I think the way you read it does have bearing. I mean, I personally like to aim high, and I think everyone should come to work feeling like they have a place, like this is a company that cares about their individual experience and becoming an inclusive, supportive and an equitable place to work. But I think often companies are increasingly settling for less, not talking about it at all, not investing in it, or thinking that it's no longer something they can invest in.
It's a very delicate topic. I do agree we have to aim at 100%. But for me, everything has to do with semantics. For me, it's all about equity, meaning fairness, equal chances. If the feeling of equal chances is there, then you will get the feel. But it's what we said, it's not equality, it's equity.
Yes.
I have to get
Big
the
difference.
same chances. It has to be fair. And there is a lot of work to do with that, because it has to do with language, it has to do with semantics, it has to do with attitude, and it has to do for me, it's active listening. Well, again, it's not something that we are very keen on investing in moments where it's very difficult to attain your objectives.
Yeah.
And we see that economically everything is going quite difficult. We see a lot of restructuring. Then fairness is not always the first thing to put on the front, because I need my numbers, and then we go back to I have to make choices, and I make them. Let's go for the financial choices.
Yep.
That's human. It's not, and it's not negative that I'm. But it's short-term thinking. For me, equity and fairness is the most important. Make sure that you give the same opportunities. So as a company, that's the first thing. But also as an individual, you need to be also open and active listening to the reasons why certain decisions are made. Will you get the everything out, and will you get 100%? I'm afraid no, because on both sides, people don't get on the same level.
Yeah.
There could be opportunities, but sometimes very individual. I think, I had also those chances, but did I put? So it's very difficult to put them on the same level.
Yeah.
And that's again, revival of the middle management.
I think it's the easiest thing in the world to say, well, I give everyone the same chance, or everyone has the same opportunity. But the reality is, if your systems and processes don't actually enable everyone to participate in the same way, then they don't.
Yeah.
So you could look at your candidate pool and go, well, great, everyone had the opportunity to apply. But did your systems and processes surface candidates who might not have seen your ads, or who might be neurodiverse and might not be able to get through your processes and systems at all? And actually more fool you, because for me, you're missing out on the richness and diversity and interesting talent that there is out there. And especially as you start thinking about who is training your AI, who is building the learning and the systems and processes for the future, you are now building them with bias baked in. So you're building them to close that pool even further. You're building it with managers who all think the same way, who will have the same background, who will come from the same point of view. So we're actually entrenching those narrow viewpoints, or those narrow ways of thinking into our systems now. So I would say it's more important than ever.
It is more important than ever to invest on it, because it's part of, if you have a correct employer brand, so you want to reach everybody. Linked to employer branding. That's why also we think it's important to include it. And again, it's very emotional. And on the other side, it's feeling and how you are as a person, and respect, and again, engagement in respect as a person. You need to invest in that. Again, investment, where do you put your priorities in investment today?
Yeah.
We say, okay, we have this kind of money and we have to make choices.
Yeah.
going to make choices. And I completely agree with the fact that, okay, maybe the fact that I chose those channels to get people in, I miss out on those and on those.
Yeah.
Absolutely understand. But this is my budget. So I have to do this, or this. But this I cannot do.
Yeah. And we make short-term sacrifices, but with long-term implications, I would say.
Do I agree? No, because ideally it should be this.
Yeah.
But again, I think data-driven way of looking at things is, and prioritizing when I work on employer branding. That's strategic workforce management. Yeah. Where are my priorities and my long-term looking at and be prepared and proactive in what I'm going to do. And then I have to act and sometimes reactive and proactively. Then I can define on the data that I get, I can say, okay, this is now my priority target group. Where going to find them? I see that I don't have it. Where can I, in all the channels and the way that I did it so far, this is my result. It's not good enough. Where do I find them? Okay, let's break down those roles. What are the competences? What are the roles and the tasks that I have to do? What are the competencies behind those competences? For 80%, where can I find them? Otherwise, there, and there. Okay, maybe I have to now change my channels, but it's a lot of work. That's why I say you have to create proactive way, and the role of HR should be much more important in that, to prepare and to help hiring managers and board members and directors to make the right choices.
Yeah, and I think those choices need to stand the test of time.
Yeah.
What I think we're going to see is people making short-term decisions about their employer brand now, which is, okay, we're not prioritizing inclusion, for example, or we're not prioritizing junior talent. And actually, that pivot back is much harder than they think it's going to be. Yeah. It's not a case of switching channels and turning on a new ad, because you have told people these aren't things that are important to you. Mm-hmm. And people remember. Candidates do have a longer term, and people, as you say, they're not candidates, they're people at large in the street, have a longer term memory of how they were treated in a past experience, how their friend was treated, or how they saw a company pedal back on something they previously said was a core part of their culture. It is very difficult to rebuild that trust. Yeah. Trust doesn't happen overnight. So I think companies that think we can switch it on and off again with the changing tides, I think we'll have a rude awakening when the tide shifts back and they realize that employer branding is built over time and not in the course of a campaign or a season.
I think most companies, I can't say all companies, but the most companies that I help or where I'm in contact have the right mindset and are inclusive companies. The only thing is, it's very difficult to materialize that.
Yeah.
I think the mindset with the most are correct on the highest level.
Yeah.
And then again, you have to implement it. And then you get the bias because my culture...
But we want to go fast or we have a limited budget. Yeah.
So it's I think it's not a problem of mindset. It's a problem of how you're going to implement it afterwards. And the implementation is not helped with some people in political... in some countries because they don't see the advantage and they are limiting things.
We approach things very similarly when we do employer branding projects with companies. We always say we need to have a conversation with your leadership team and your CEO. And they're like, oh no, this is a people and culture thing. And we said, well, to be honest, at the point at which you have to start asking for more investment for this, or you have to start getting them to buy into the proposition that you have built and the talent profile that it will attract, we will need to sell that as a story with value attached and business outcomes attached. So if I don't understand what your CEO's priorities are, if I don't understand what keeps him or her up at night and what they're thinking about, the long-term challenges are with the business, then I can't show how this employer brand and this proposition and the talent that we attract is going to help solve that problem. And that's really what they care about. So we always start with, we need to speak to your leadership team. And it always goes well because we're always landing. Because finally, I would say finally, because you're starting at the very beginning and you're involving them in the process and you're showing that there is value to this work beyond fluffy culture stuff. So I think if you can land it in that upfront, it really helps. And they often think they're coming in to be interviewed about the culture and talk, about what they think the culture is. But actually, I always want to talk about business outcomes and how we can solve that with employer branding. So yes, you're right. It doesn't always go, it's not always easy, but it always gets to the right outcomes in my experience. I had an
example where I was sitting with 8 board members.
Yeah.
And they wanted to, we had won an employer brand or an EVP project to make something work. And my first question is also the same, is to say, okay, from all the 8 individuals, we have an interview.
Yeah.
To see, okay, what does it mean for you? You created a mission, a vision, some values, and then you created an EVP with all building blocks. Okay, what does it link? What does it make? What is business like? And do they know them? And how what's your opinion about? What's your feeling about it? Do you recognize it? Do you accept it? And do you live it? And how do you live it? And if it's approximately the same for all board members, then we continue. Then you
Absolutely.
Can go. But
is there alignment?
I had 8 different board members. I had 8 different answers.
Yeah.
Then it's impossible to get a story for all the rest.
And you think, how is the average employee understanding the story and journey that you're on as a business if actually your board members, your executive team cannot give an aligned answer? And yet we expect colleagues to be purpose-driven and living the mission and living the values. And you think, well, do they even know what it is?
Yeah.
And are you saying the same story? And are they hearing the same story on repeat to retain it day in, day out, and in their performance reviews? Or is it something that you've told yourself in your head and then you've never articulated out loud in a cohesive way?
And is your behavior and the way that you do you're demonstrating that?
Absolutely.
Sometimes I'm a very stupid example is how it's, and not on the executive level, but when you're doing the selection process, and there was a company who said, well, one of the most important things for us is flexibility. I said, very nice. This is one I really like. Flexibility, it's nice in a yearly...
Sounds good.
Yearly report, but what does that mean exactly? In selection process. And then there was a candidate and he said, okay, flexibility, very important. Nice, because asking what does it mean, but also, they proposed a date to have an interview, and the candidate says, it doesn't work for me. Yeah, but it's the only option. I think, okay, this is, even then it's already wrong. And even to say that when you do an EVP, it has to be integrated in every moment. So if the board is not believing what they're telling you, you will see that it will never get in the processes.
Yes.
And if it's not getting in the processes, then the behavior is not there. And then you can talk about culture as much as you want, but it's not there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've loved this conversation. I could go on all day. I think we'll let people download the report themselves, which they can do at your website. Or?
Yeah, Randstad.com. There is an opportunity and a workforce insights. And then you will see that there is a link to employer branding. There is or a country report in each country.
Perfect.
Or there is a global report.
Perfect. And looking ahead, I guess, just to put you on the spot for next year, you've said there are some things that are consistent, some things that change. Is there anything that you're predicting in next year's report that you think we'll see more of?
It's a difficult period to predict things.
I know, it's difficult. You don't want to pin your hat on anything with the rate of change,
with the rate of change, it's difficult. But I think... depending on what questions that will stay and will go out, but in purely in employer branding, I think 2 things is that employer branding awareness, but the attractiveness of companies in a whole will go down. I'm pretty sure that there is a little bit more distance.
As in, you think people will want to work for themselves more in general, or
no, don't want to change.
I see.
Of position. I think the mobility will be even less than now. A lot of people think, I want to change because I'm not motivated. But the real thing to change is there is still a safe haven.
And everyone's waiting to see which way that...
Yeah, there is... do I take the risk? The risk-taking will go down, so that's not a positive element for companies, because
you have disengaged employees that are stuck where they are.
So the importance to make the employer brand and the promise work in real life in the company itself is, for me, the highest priority, and not the recruitment marketing part of it, but the investment in the people that they are there, because we need to get to keep them engaged, motivated, and productive. And the productive, you could say, that's a negative word. No, because it gives, if you are a productive and engaged and motivated way, it gives you also self-pride.
Absolutely.
And so it makes you grow as a person. So for me, and that's and from the elements, I think work-life balance, for instance, will lose a little bit of weight due to the economical and political situation. I think job security, the hard criteria like salary will gain a little bit more, but will there be big changes? It's just an assumption. I think there will not be big changes, but the ranking will get even closer again.
So with that projection, what would you advise employers to be investing in? Apart from taking their employer brand seriously and realizing it's internal first.
That's for me, the first thing is to do is that it's internal first and support your middle management.
Yeah.
And go for passive, reactive, operational human resources to proactive human resources. And that for me, it means that take strategic workforce management serious.
Yeah.
Take it serious because if you don't know the data behind it, it's very difficult to get to make employer branding live, or even to get the connection with your people, because you don't know it, because it changes constantly. Sometimes I ask companies how many people are leaving the company within this and 5 years. They don't know. Some know, and then I ask, what competences and are you losing? And which one of those are critical?
So interesting.
Light goes out.
Yeah.
And the data are important to make sure that the culture and the human behind it gets there. Yeah, and then connect. You need, so for me, internal revival of the middle management, but start to be proactive on what you do.
Love it.
Otherwise, it will get very difficult.
That was a good wake-up call. And I think you'll get a lot of downloads of the report. It's a really interesting read. I love taking a look at it. And I'm going to go now and dive into the different countries because I'd only seen the UK one. Nice. So I'm ready to have a deeper look. Thank you so much for coming in, Olivier. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you very much.
Thanks so much for listening. Again, at The Truthworks, we love having these kind of conversations. So we will be getting on some more exciting guests. Hopefully, Olivier is the first of many.